When the Kundalini rises, you actually can see the movement of Kundalini. There have been many people who have been talking of Kundalini awakening. Actually, none of them who say so have shown the rising of the Kundalini. The reason being, the Kundalini never rose. The Kundalini only rises when there is somebody who is already enlightened and who knows the job of rising the Kundalini.
I bow to all the seekers of truth. At the very outset, we have to know one thing, that truth is what it is. We cannot organize it, we cannot order it, we cannot conceptualize it, also with our human understanding. It is, it was, and it will be. The essence of all religions, if you bring it down to the one line essence, is this, that seek the eternal and treat the transitory with all understanding about it. The first part is the difficult one. Seek the eternal. Eternal is the truth. And what is the truth? Now, when I'm talking to you, we are all very well versed and very well educated people. I have to request you to have an open mind, a scientific outlook. You see for yourself what I say is the truth or not, experience it, and treat all this talk as a hypothesis. And if it turns out to be the truth, then in all honesty, we have to accept it. So there are two things which we may not accept, but they exist. One of them is that all this universe, all this creation is permeated by, nourished by, looked after by all pervading power of God's love. In these modern times, even to take God's name is too much. This is called as Parama Chaitanya in Sanskrit language. In Quran, it is called as Ruh. In the Bible, as the all-pervading power of God's love, or the all-pervading power of divine. What we call as spirituality, divinity, is the essence of that. This is first truth. And the second truth is that we are not this body, not this mind, not the emotions, not the ego, not these thoughts. Beyond that, we are the spirit. We are the pure spirit. These are the two things said in all religions, whatever way they must have talked about. In the olden times, when seeking started in India, India has certain privileges compared to other countries. Firstly, the climate is so good that you can live in a jungle without much trouble. While in the West, we would say people started growing outward like a tree. The Indians started going downward into their roots. And they found out long time back, Sahaja Yoga is not a modern thing. It's an ancient prescripted method of getting union with the divine, which is yoga. Sahaja means born with you. Saha is with Ja born. Born with you is the right to get that union with the divine power. But Sahaj also means spontaneous because this is the living power that works it out. There is a living power within us which has made us human beings from amoeba stage. And now there's another residual power which has to connect us to the divine. This is the real meaning of the word yoga. And every human being has a right to get united to that all pervading power. So, this is the last breakthrough of our evolution. At human level, as you know, we live in a relative world. Some people say this is good, some people say that is good. There's all a strife going on. But if it is the absolute truth, there should be no two opinions about it. So, very humbly, we must accept that we have not yet reached that absolute truth, which proves the existence of God, which proves the existence of this all pervading power, which proves the correctness of what the great prophets, the great incarnations have taught us. Of course, religions have gone into divergence and deviations because of human effort, and they might have been apparently looking to be different, but they were just like flowers on a tree of life at different times according to the timings. Sanskrit the word is for the samayachar. According to the time, the manifestation was there, but they were all created on one tree of life. But people plucked it, started saying, "This is mine, this is mine." And with the dead flowers, they started fighting. That's how we see today the problem arising. There was nothing wrong with these saints, nothing wrong with the prophets, and nothing wrong with the incarnations. They all have done whatever was the best for us and have tried to tell us from time to time at the time of our evolution what we have to do. But mostly they have been dealing with the transitory things, how not to indulge into the transitory pleasures of life, but to seek the eternal. The second part of it is the seek the eternal. That is to get this yoga to be united with this all pervading power, which gives you self realization, to know the self, know thyself. Christ has said it. You have to be born again. Even in Sanskrit language, they call a person who is a realized soul as Dvijaha, means born twice. They call a bird also as Dvijaha, meaning born twice. Means first it's an egg and then it becomes a free bird to fly out. In the same way, a realized soul means a person, a human being, who is connected with that all pervading power. Now, what is the system within us which is being created by God Almighty? Beautiful, because not that He is our creator, but He is our loving Father. And beautifully, during our evolutionary process, He has created a very beautiful mechanism within us that is described as tree of life in the Bible. It's described as asas in Quran. It's described as kundalini in Sanskrit language. Kundala means coils. Now, this power of kundalini is the power which is the power of pure desire. All our desires are impure. You know, the law of economics says that In general, wants are not sexual. Today we want to have a table, then want to have a chair, then want to have a car, then want to have a house. Whatever we get, we are not satisfied with it. We jump from one to another. The reason is whatever we desire is not the pure desire. The pure desire within us, whether you are aware of it or not, is to become one with the divine power. And unless and until this desire is fulfilled, you can never have that satisfaction, that contentment of a saint. So, this is the work one had to do. In the early days, thousands of years back, all over the world there were realizers. You can start right from Abraham to Moses to Confucius. In India, there were many great saints, Adinath. From that, Nathpanthis they were called as. Their job was just to give awakening to people. At the time of Rama, his father-in-law was Janaka, who was a king, but regarded as a very detached person, Vaidehi. And one disciple came to him and asked him for self-realization. He said, "You can ask for my kingdom, but it's not easy to give you self-realization." He said, "Why?" He said, "The time has not come." So when will the time come? He said, Kali Yuga, that's modern times. This is the time when people would be living under illusions, sabrant, and they will be under shock of destruction. They will not be able to solve their problems, and then they will seek the truth. And many of them who today are roaming about in the hills and dales, in the mountains, Himalayas, will settle down as householders and they will get their self realization. That is the time today. Whatever is said about the last judgment, this is the time for that last judgment. Also in Quran, it is said that at the time of your resurrection, your hands will speak and they will give witness against you. Exactly this happens in surgery. The surah that is in Quran called as Sajda Yoga. It's surprising how Muhammad Sahib clearly said about it. He also said you won't believe it because you are too arrogant, because you won't be able to see that. You will be moving in another direction of fanaticism. Clearly I said it. But as it is, nobody likes to really go into the details of it and to find what is between the lines. That also is a very subtle thing. For that, we have to become subtle beings. And to become that subtle being, you have to get your self realization. At the time, in the beginning, I would say when they were searching, they went through their sympathetic nervous system, praying to God or doing their Vedas and all those things. And what they saw were the different deities sitting on the different chakras, on the subtle centers. So they started talking about the deities. So people started worshipping the deities. They wanted to have the nectar, the honey of the flower, but they started talking about the flower, worshipping the flower. So some people afterwards found it that it was not proper, like Buddha, Mahavira, Mamata, Nanaka. All of them found that it's not proper to talk about the flowers because people get lost. So better talk about the honey. So one was Sakara, is that is formless, form with the form, another formless. So Nirakara, they started talking about the formless. This was also talk and talk and talk. But to reach the honey, you have to be a bee. And that's what is self-realization is. Now this Kundalini is placed in the triangular bone, which is called a sacrum in the medical term. In Latin, sacrum means sacred. That means the Greeks knew about it. Otherwise, why should they call it a sacred bone? This Kundalini is awakened as a living process like the seed sprouts when it is put in the Mother Earth. Spontaneously rises, passes through 6 centers. The seventh center is below. And the seventh center is responsible for our excretion. It stops its function when it starts rising. So another myth which says that the sex has any part to play in our ascent is absolutely wrong. Because the center of sex, which is the seventh center, is lower than the Kundalini. Then it rises, pierces through 6 centers. The sixth center is placed on the fontanelle bone area, where it was a soft bone once upon a time. But as you grow, through your sympathetic activity, you develop two institutions in your head. From the right activity, which is we can call the power of action, you develop your ego like a balloon. And from the left side, which is your conditionings, you develop another balloon which is called as superego in English language, but in Sanskrit is mana. Both of them join like this, sometimes overlap each other, and the bone becomes calcified. So now you are like an egg, I would say. Then when the Kundalini rises, she passes through this center, which is placed between the optic chiasma known as Agya Chakra, which sometimes people call it as third eye. And this center sucks in these two institutions, opening the limbic area and through which the Kundalini comes out, and you can feel the cool breeze coming out of your head. The actualization of the baptism. It's an actualization, it's not just a certificate. So, like every instrument has to be connected to the mains, you get connected with that subtle energy. And because this is the seat of your spirit, but the seat in human beings decides in their heart. Immediately, the spirit start emitting light on your central nervous system. This is a very important point one must know. So you cannot understand it through your mental activity, but through your evolutionary process, you manifest a new awareness on your central nervous system. And this awareness is called, in the Christian tradition in the olden times, they were called as Gnostics. Gna was what? Gna. Gna Jiran is in Sanskrit means knowledge, from where the Gna comes. Jnana. In the same way, the Gna. And Gnostics they were called. This Gna or this knowledge, Gna, is the same as Bodha in the Buddha tradition. Is to know on your central nervous system, is an experience. Is not through your brain, not with mental activity, but on your central nervous system. In the Vedas, the first verse of Veda is that you have to know it in a Veda. Veda means also to know on your central nervous system. All these scriptures aim at knowing this all pervading power on your central nervous system. For example, now we are human beings, we are much better off than animals. Supposing you want to take a dog through a dirty lane, he cannot. He can easily go. Or a horse, he has no problems. But we cannot pass through that. Because we have developed certain subtler senses within us. But once Kundalini rises and you become a realized soul, then a new dimension of awareness develops and a widening of your awareness. First thing that happens on your central nervous system is that you become collectively conscious. It's said by Jung. Jung has said it about it. That you develop collective consciousness. You develop it. It's actualization. It's becoming. It's not just that I say that all right, we are all brothers and sisters. We are part and parcel of the whole. By saying that doesn't happen. But you have to become It's a becoming, it's a happening within us. So you can feel on your fingertips your own centers and the centers of another person. Very easily, even children can feel it. This is the first awareness which we can understand that happens. But when the Kundalini rises, she passes through a portion which we call as void. It's not the same as Zen, it's different type. Is here in the portion which we can call it as the ocean of illusion. It enlightens 10 valencies within us. Human beings have 10 valencies, while you know that matter has 8, animals have 9, and human beings have 10 valencies. These are 10 dharmas, means these are 10 religions, you can call it, or the 10 commandments within us. They just get enlightened, and you become a righteous person. Like any saint, you become righteous. Nobody has to tell you, don't do this, don't do that. You just become. This is what has to happen. Because you see people belonging to any religion whatsoever, whether it is Christianity, Hinduism, or Islam, or anyone. They can commit any sin they want. There's no bondage of religion in there. Anyone can commit any sin. They can kill anybody, they can rob anybody, they can deceive anybody, they can be very mean. Anything is possible, whatever religion one may follow. But when you are not innately religious, as I call it, when it is not built in within you, then this kind of faith leads to fanaticism. And I think today's main problem now is fanaticism and fundamentalism. Everyone thinks that we are the best, we are the chosen ones, we have the full idea. But actually, unless and until you know the reality, you cannot say that you have known it. So, to know the reality, the Kundalini has first to be connected with the divine, and then you have to experiment with it and see for yourself and find out what is the reality. On experience. The other day, one miracle happened, I must tell you that. A gentleman was sitting and was questioning me on a radio station. And suddenly he asked me a question. Do you think this is some sort of a Messiah's work? I didn't answer him, but immediately felt cool breeze on his hand. He said, what's happening? He forgot he was on the tape. See? He just said, what's it? What is this cool? What's happening? But nothing on my head. He just got lost. He said, nothing on my head. I said, all right, just a little imbalance. Let me work it out. And then he started feeling, oh God. And he said, see, I feel a ball of cool breeze in New Zealand. And everybody rushed from that area to see what is happening, but everybody is listening. Just he asked a simple question like that. And the answer came like a computer. It worked. And he was amazed at himself. So, this is something one has to realize that this is the power that really does everything. What we do is to something dead, supposing there's some tree is dead, we make this table, we think no end of ourselves. From dead to dead. Just reconstruction. We don't do any living work. But after realization, you start doing living work. Just put your hands. Now you have to do a few things. First of all, you must forgive yourself. Very important. You must forgive yourself. Because if you don't forgive, you feel guilty. And when you feel guilty, what happens? The center on this side, this one, which will be, gets into trouble, into great trouble. And because of that, you cannot feel the vibrations. Also, with this kind of a thing happening in you, the result could be very serious. You can get angina as one of the diseases, or also you can get spondylitis. So you should not feel in any way guilty about it. Whatever has happened in the past is past. We are not talking of the past, we are talking of the present. So just forgive yourself, forgive yourself. Now, second thing you have to do is to forgive others. It's very important. But they say it's very difficult to forgive others. Whether you forgive or don't forgive, actually don't do anything. Logically, you don't do anything. But if you do not forgive, then you torture yourself for nothing at all and play into the hands who have troubled you. So best thing is to forgive. Leave them alone. Just forgive them. It's very important because if you do not forgive, the center here where I put the red mark, which is known as the Agya Chakra, gets into trouble. And it's a very constricted chakra. So to open the chakra, best thing is to forgive. Please forgive everyone. Forgive yourself and forgive everyone. Now you can close your eyes if you want to and bend your head a little. Now put your right hand towards me and with the left hand you see if there's a cool or a hot breeze coming out of your fontanelle bone area, which was a soft bone in your childhood. Please put your hand up, not away, but up and moving it on sides to find out if there's a cool breeze coming out of your fontanelle bone area. It could be also hot. It could be hot if you have not forgiven others and not forgiven yourself. It could be hot. It doesn't matter. Please see for yourself with your left hand if there's a cool breeze coming out of your head. Now, please put your left hand towards me, bend your head and see for yourself with the right hand if there's a cool or a hot breeze coming out of your head. Once more, again, once more. Again, put your left hand on top of your forehead, bend your head. On top of your head, on the fontanelle bone area, just see if there is cool or a hot breeze coming up. If it is hot, please forgive yourself and forgive others. Please bend your head. See for yourself if there's a cool or a hot breeze coming out of your fontanelle bone area, which was a soft bone in your tongue. Now you put both your hands towards me like this. And see for yourself if there is a cool or a hot breeze coming in your hand, on your fingertips, or on the palm. Just see for yourself. Now, just put hands like this, not like that, but hands in an open way. Now, all those who have felt cool breeze on the fingertips or on their palms or out of their fontanelle bone area or hot breeze. Please raise both your hands. Please raise both your hands. Most of you, most of you. May God bless you.